Hmm. God damn, Jimmy. This some serious gourmet shit. Me and Vincent would have been satisfied with some freeze-dried Taster's Choice, right? And he springs this serious gourmet shit on. What flavor is this?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 20 of Tomorrow's Fights podcast, where we will be previewing UFC 232 tonight. I'm your host, Matthew Catalano. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and with me, as always, our technician in transition. With over 20 years of wrestling experience, he is also a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome to the program, Matt Branscombe.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me again.
So, thoughts on the card? I think top to bottom, pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, it's got some surprising undercard fights in there too. The things you wouldn't think would be on names you wouldn't see on a prelim card.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how I kind of slept on this one until you said it was time to look for the show. Start doing my show prep, and I started going through, fight by fight, and I'm like, God, this might be one of the better cards of the year.
Mm-hmm. It's actually really good. I like it. And coming off of UFC 231, which was also quite a treat. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I like it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about missing the last show. Had a little family emergency, and thank goodness all of that is over with now, and should be able to do all of 2019. Knock wood. Knock wood.
No problem.
And since Smith isn't here today, we can make up whatever we want about where he's at. I'm going to say he was in some sort of freak kayak accident. He's lost out in the woods, and he's trying to find his way home.
I think he's trapped under the Hudson River somewhere.
Yeah, we hope anyway. That's the only acceptable excuse.
He's not going to listen to this anyway, so it doesn't matter.
he's not going to go back and critique us. You don't think he's not going to waste that hour of his life?
Nope. I will say, though, yeah, I really like this card. I mean, even on the early prelims, you've got Brian Kelleher, you've got Curtis Millender, Uriah Hall, and those are on the Fight Pass prelims.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then you move to the Fox Sports 1 card. You got BJ Penn on there, you got Kat Zingano, Megan Anderson, Walt Harris, Andrei Arlovski, like something for everybody.
So if the last UFC card that was on Fox is the last one that was going to be on Fox, is this going to be the last prelim that's going to be on FX/FS1/FS2, whatever they decide to throw it on?
Yeah, I believe so, because the next like cable card is an ESPN card, right? No,
Yep.
Wait, hold on. What is Cejudo versus Dillashaw? Yeah, here we go. The next cable card is on January 19th, where Henry Cejudo takes on TJ Dillashaw, and it's UFC on ESPN 1.
So end of an era. I can get rid of that sports package on my cable box that says I have to have, to get FS1
First of
and
all,
FS2.
why do you still have cable? It's 2018.
I'll tell you after the show how I have a cable box. I would just let you know I don't pay for it. It's not illegal.
Illegally.
It's just a part of my work package.
Okay,
So,
that's nice. All right, well,
yeah.
anyways, with that, let's get right on to it. Let's dig into the prelims here. In the interest of time, we are not going to cover every prelim, but we'll each pick 3 things. Our most interesting prelim of the night, our breakout fighter, that's somebody with a win, could go on to do something big, headline a card, get on a main card, and our pink slip fighter of the night. Now, that's somebody who's fighting for their job. So, let's start with most interesting fight. Which one do you care about the most?
For me, it's the Kat Zingano versus Megan Anderson fight.
Interesting.
Reason being, we've got Kat Zingano, who, up until her, 3-fight skid that she had after some dark personal things that went on in her life, up until that point, she looked unstoppable. She beat the current featherweight champion and beat her pretty well. It was back and forth, and then she ended up stopping her.
Elbows from the mount. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, and then she, had that time off after the stuff in her personal life, and whenever she came back, she went into Rousey. And who'd she lose to right after Rousey?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Someone, and then Ketlin Vieira, somebody in between. Juliana Pena. That's
Juliana Pena, yeah. So it was just kind of a bit of a slide. she just got back on her feet with a win in her last fight against Marion
Reneau, yeah.
Yeah, and if she gets her stuff back together, she can also be another force in this featherweight division. Megan Anderson, this will be her second fight in the UFC. Her first one, they kind of thrown her to the wolves. Her first fight was up against Holly Holm. She went the distance with her, looked okay in that fight. I mean, she obviously got outstruck by one of the best, pure strikers.
I mean, she got out-wrestled by a blue belt.
Well, I forgot about that. You got to remember, though, though she might be just a blue belt, she's been now training just MMA for 5 or 6 years, and she is Holly Holm is an incredible athlete.
Definitely an incredible athlete.
And if
she's
you're someone like me, if you're like someone like Megan Anderson, you're used to being a little more physically dominant than your opponent, and that wasn't going to be the case ever with Holly Holm. She's a specimen. Mm-hmm. Now, this fight coming in, she's also fighting someone who is a physical specimen, and this girl does have the wrestling chops.
Right.
She wrestled all through college. She was a 4-time NCAA All-American as well as a national champ, ADCC North American champion in submission grappling. She's a purple belt. From what I understand, she's
I thought Kat Zingano was higher than a purple belt. Is that true? No, you're right.
No,
she is.
No, she's a purple belt, and I remember listening to her on.
She
on
medaled
Rogan's
in ADCC
podcast.
in 2010, though.
Yeah, she was on Rogan's podcast. She's obviously higher than a purple belt. After losing her husband, she's kind of picky about who she wants to get her next belt from. She wants it to be something special because he had been her BJJ coach all along, and that's the reason why it is where it is.
I actually thought she was a black belt. Damn.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
So, who do I think? If Kat has all of her stuff together, I think she has all the tools to beat Megan Anderson. But this might be one of those fights where if Megan takes the win because Kat still hasn't put it all back together, then this might put her up there in the running to be in that top 10.
Oh, dude, I think Kat Zingano is gonna blow the doors off her. I mean, if Holly Holm could out wrestle her, what is Kat Zingano gonna do to her? She's gonna murder her.
Yeah, that's what we thought. I mean, I would have thought she would have done that to Julia Pena or.
Well, Juliana Pena is a fairly competent grappler and a very strong girl.
But not on. I wouldn't say on the level of. I wouldn't say on the level of Kat Zingano.
No, but. Yeah, I don't know.
If you put her out there with 2012 Kat Zingano, she's getting run over. Yeah,
I think she's getting run over regardless. I think Megan Anderson just needs some seasoning. She needs to be put back in the slow cooker with a couple spices for a few years.
Yeah, and let's not sell her out though. She was a an Invicta champ. She's only got 3 losses in her career, and they've, unlike Zingano, who was on a long 3-fight skid, went a couple of years without getting a win. Megan spread hers out, and she's been out there with some good, tough competition in Invicta. So,
yeah, that's a good pick.
I'm her manager, I'm not liking the way the UFCs keep throwing her to the wolves. So, you'd like to see her get a couple of get that UFC jitters out before she's in there with these monsters.
Well, she's got a huge problem. Look at the division she's in. No one else is there. So there's no one for her to fight. Like, they don't have a featherweight division, even though they tell you they do.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, I like that fight. I mean, I like all the prelims. Save for 2 of them. I think they're all going to be great fights. My most interesting fight of the prelims. This is a homer pick. This is straight from the heart. So, you know what I'm going with, and it's BJ Penn, Ryan Hall. I'm holding out this sliver of hope that I can see BJ Penn win another time in my lifetime, and the chances of that become less and less every year, every moment. Yeah, man. But honestly, this is a weird fight because my problem with BJ Penn competing now, and yes, okay, he absolutely should have retired 3 or 4 or 5 fights ago. We already know that, but here he is. He's fighting, so we're going to talk about it. My problem with BJ Penn is that he can't fight for 15 minutes anymore. That's my biggest thing with him. It's not that he doesn't have the talent, although the sport has kind of passed him by. But it's just that he can't put together 15 minutes of work. And you saw that in the Dennis Seaver fight where, I think it was the second round where he actually knocked him down and then kind of like sat in side control for 2 minutes. And then he comes out for the third round and he just has nothing. Like, he just can't fight for 15 minutes. And if you can't fight for 15 minutes, you can't be competing in professional mixed martial arts. So, it's not that he's getting like knocked out every fight or just like blown out of the water. It's just like he just can't do it for 15 minutes. He doesn't have the cardio. He doesn't have the physical capability anymore. So, I mean, first of all, that's my problem with BJ Penn. But Ryan Hall is not a pressure striker or a great wrestler. He's an incredible jiu-jitsu black belt, a new school world champion. So we're talking about the leg lock game, whereas you have BJ Penn, who is like the traditional jiu-jitsu black belt, who's more of like a back taker and just very solid fundamentals. If you watch some YouTube videos of BJ Penn like teaching gi jiu-jitsu, he goes through what he calls like advanced basics, where he just takes the basics and shoves it down his opponent's throat until he wins. But this might be, here's my hot take. Is this the first person that BJ Penn has fought that is a better grappler than him? And do you think that Ryan Hall's jiu-jitsu is more advanced than Penn's? What do you think about that?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Is it advanced? For the reasons you just said earlier, I would say maybe you can argue that Ryan Hall's is more advanced. It's newer. It probably has way more tools in the toolbox. But you don't look at someone like a Roger Gracie and say someone's jiu-jitsu is more advanced than his because he doesn't do everything that the other person does. He just does those basics very, very well.
Right, but Roger also has a breadth of competitive jiu-jitsu experience and accolades, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Penn went straight into martial arts. He won the Mundials. He was actually the first non-Brazilian to win the Mundials.
Right, and he won it at brown belt and black belt level. So you can't say that he doesn't have advanced jiu-jitsu.
No, he absolutely does.
And Ryan Hall never won it as a black belt. He won it as a purple belt. He won it I think he won some ADCC trials. I think he won the West Coast trials and the North American trials, and he might have placed third in ADCC. So, I mean, they both got great grappling credentials.
He took gold in ADCC in 2008. I don't know what belt that was in. But most of
there's no belts. There's no belts. It's just
you're right. It's all it's ADC is just all no-gi, right?
Yeah.
But Ryan Hall's jiu-jitsu accolades are all from 2009 to 2011, pretty much.
Right, and if he out grapples Penn, next week, and puts it to him, I wouldn't say that his jiu-jitsu is better. I'm just saying he's a younger athlete.
Yeah. And now, like if he goes in there and heel hooks him from a 50-50 guard, well, that's a little different, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he catches him with something slick like that, I just don't know that he's going to be able to do that. The interesting thing about this fight for me is that this is the first non-real striker he's had in a while. I mean, Frankie Edgar is started off as a wrestler, but he's turned into quite the boxer. So you got Dennis Seaver, who's straight kickboxer, Yair Rodriguez, straight kickboxer,
Why
Frankie
the fuck
Edgar,
did
who's
they make
boxer
that fight?
wrestler.
That was just ridiculous.
Roy McDonald and Nick Diaz are both strike heavy, and then grappling second. I mean, this would be the better fight for BJ Penn, but God, it's still a tough out for him. How long of a layoff has this been for Ryan Hall? Because he hasn't fought in forever, has he?
His last fight was in 2016.
Yeah, so this is 2 years. He's off of a 2-year layoff too.
Hold on, guess what the odds are?
I don't even want to.
Just guess. What do you think Ryan Hall is?
I would say something like a 4-1 favorite.
He's minus 550.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but, I mean, if you don't win a fight in 8 years,
yeah,
it's hard to.
Well, the other thing is this is at lightweight too, whereas Penn has tried to do the featherweight thing, which I didn't like for him. I don't know if lightweight is going to be is going to mean that he's like less disciplined with his weight cut / cardio, or if he's going to be more rejuvenated. I almost guarantee, I guarantee as this fight pops up on Fox Sports 1, you're going to hear Joe Rogan say, now Penn is moving back to lightweight, and I really think he's going to be less dilapidated and have a lot more energy, not sucked down to featherweight. And it's just, I think that's all bullshit.
Well, on that, when you're talking about a 40-year-old fighter, he definitely doesn't need to be cutting the weight on top of everything else going on.
Yep.
So he might have a little more energy, but I mean, he's fighting someone 10 years his junior. He's still gonna have trouble after round 2. The thing about him is though he still does have dangerous hands.
Got that boxing game.
It's cliche in boxing and in striking sports that your power is the last thing to go. So he does have a puncher's chance standing up, but Ryan Hall is known to sit on his ass and slide at you rather than try to stand with you at all. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see if like Ryan Hall is shooting single legs here or pulling guard or doing some real funky shit. Like, I would be pretty sad if he tries to win a kickboxing match. Like, I want to see this hit the mat.
Yeah, I guarantee you. If I had to put money down, I wish there was a betting line for Eminari roll in the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna try something like that.
Yep.
But BJ is a monster on the mat once it gets there. I mean, he's one of those back finders. It doesn't matter how good, he's shown it against all kinds of grapplers.
Absolutely, one of the most dexterous grapplers I've ever seen.
Yeah, he can brush his teeth with his feet.
Yes, he sure can. All right, so that's gonna be mine. I'll always watch Penn fight and root for him, and at least this is not a striker for him. So yeah, really interesting fight, I think. Okay, so with that being said, who's your breakout fighter?
Breakout fighter for this one, I'm going to say Mr. Bevon Lewis. He's got 2 wins on Dana White Contender Series. He's fights out of Jackson Wink, and everything I've heard from their coaches talking is that they think he's a untapped potential. He's a trainer partner of John Jones, and if he goes out there and wins against Uriah Hall, who's only ranked 14 now, but he was ranked as high as almost the top 5, I believe. He was in the top 10. If he goes out there and puts a starch in on him, which is always a possibility for anybody that steps in with Uriah Hall.
Very true.
This might move him up. I think he's on early prelims right now.
Yep.
This might move him up to the prelims or even on a ESPN 1+ whatever card.
Yeah, however they're gonna work that.
Card. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. My pick is
by the way, he's also undefeated right now.
Is he? What is his record now?
He's 6-0, and both his fights in the Contender Series, he finished the other fighter.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember this guy, and I don't off the top of my head.
It's funny is he kind of looks like Uriah Hall to me. Like I was watching on my laptop, and it was a shitty quality of a video coming through at that time, and I was like, "Is that Uriah Hall that's fighting?" And it had to look by the shorts, and I was like, "Oh, he kind of looks like him from here." And it might have just been the shitty quality video.
I mean, that's what's cool though. Even the UFC Fight Pass prelims are like, they're pretty fucking good. Like you have Uriah Hall versus Bevon Lewis, who you said is from the Contender Series, and then one step down you have Curtis Millender versus Sayer Baharazada. Curtis Millender is like on some crazy win streak in the welterweight division. Yeah, he's on a 8-fight win streak. He's the guy that beat Thiago Alves and then just decisioned Max Griffin.
Yeah, and along with that as well, you also got on the preliminary card, you got Douglas Silva de Andrade and Peter Yan.
Yes, on the cable card.
And both of those guys are, only 1 loss, 2 loss. Did very, very well for themselves in different organizations. So
Peter Yan is my breakout fighter, actually.
Okay.
And so Peter Yan is another one of these dudes that fought in the ACB. He's one of those Russian fighters. He's 10-1, he's 10-1. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but he knocked out Teruto Ishihara and then took a decision over Jinsu Son. The only fight he lost in ACB was to another guy, and it was a split decision. It could have gone either way.
And then he came back and beat him 2 fights later.
Oh, yep. You're right. Yeah, he did. So, I mean, he's avenged his only loss, and he looks fucking solid. He is, he's only listed as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but he's also a master of sports in martial arts and boxing. So, I mean, eventually these wins are going to start mattering. I think he just needs that UFC finish. So he's got a big test against Silva de Andrade, who is something like 25-1 or 2 or something ridiculous. 25-2, yeah. Just took a decision over Marlon Vera. He got guillotined by Rob Font, but Rob Font's looking great in the bantamweight division. So
yeah, that Rob Font was his first, I would consider his first real loss in the UFC, because his fight against Tukaragov, I believe it was like on a couple weeks' notice. He didn't even know he was going to fight in that fight.
Yeah.
So he comes in first fight in the UFC, loses, rattles off a couple of wins, and runs into Rob Font. And like you said, that's not nothing to hang your head down about.
No, it's not a bad loss. Okay, who's fighting for their job? Anybody?
You're not gonna like it. I picked 2, and I don't think either of them are really fighting for their job. But if they're getting close to the end of their contract, I would actually say one of them is more than likely on the way out if he loses another one, especially to someone who's their first fight on the actual UFC card. My first one would be Uriah Hall. I mean, he came into the UFC winning taking runner up on the tough that he was on. He's gone 6-7 since he's been in there, and he's lost 4 of his last 5. And the last fight that he won was against I can't pronounce the guy's name.
Wasn't it
Grokov or something? Jocko.
Jocko, yeah. And he was like
Jocko.
Almost dead, right?
Right, and then he came back and won that fight. But Dana White said going into that one that if he lost another one there, then he was out. So he pulls that one out, gets a win, comes right back, gets annihilated by Paulo Costa. And, I can't see how he's going to be around much longer, at that level.
Literally every time Uriah Hall comes up, he is our pink slip fighter. You realize that?
yeah, and he's
always
like
one loss away.
And he's got so much potential. It just seems like he loses the big fights, and then he also loses some fights that he's not supposed to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
potential
got some
doesn't
crazy
win you fights. You got to convert that into something.
Right. He's got that crazy win against Mousasi, but then was immediately annihilated in their rematch. I hope that he turns it around and could find his way in this, but I've heard him in some interviews talking about he's got one foot out the door. He has a budding acting career that he might want to pursue. So maybe that's where we see him going. And then where we're going with the other cut fighter, don't you?
Don't you dare say BJ Penn.
I mean, God, he has not won a fight since 2010.
You shut your mouth.
He is 3-8-1 in his last 12 fights.
I don't want to hear it. We're moving on.
He has 5 straight losses before this fight against a kid who, has those same talents he has, except for the boxing.
Oh my God. You know what's funny is there was some thread on Reddit, the mixed martial arts subreddit, and it was like, what are your like alternate timeline, MMA timelines? Like, what if this happened? And dude, mine is always, what if the judges scored it correctly and BJ Penn actually won that first fight against Frankie Edgar? Because he did, first of all. He was absolutely robbed there. I think everyone unanimously agrees on that. Like, would that be a different world we were living in? Like, what would have happened there? BJ would have gone on to probably defend again against Gray Maynard, who I think he would have slaughtered at the time. And then what? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it was only a matter of time before Edgar got back there and then beat him again. I don't know. But that just ruined his career, that decision.
But they had an immediate rematch.
Right, but at that point,
beats him convincingly the next time.
Right, he did. But at that point, like, I'm not saying Edgar always will have BJ Penn's number, but after that first fight, he had time to iterate on that performance and then get it right the next time. But it still doesn't change the fact that he did not win that first fight. He did not win.
I'm with you, and trust me, nobody was a bigger BJ Penn fanboy than me at the time, and I was screaming at the TV. That
totally fucked up his career though, because he has the rematch and loses. Then he goes up to welterweight, and like he has the Matt Hughes trilogy, and then he has the draw with John Fitch, and it's just like then he fights Rory McDonald for like no reason. Like why did he fight Nick Diaz? Like why was he taking these fights? It just none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he'd just come off that second win over Matt Hughes before going into a fight with John Fitch. That was a draw, boring fight.
Except BJ Penn came in and wrestled and shot doubles, and it was fucking awesome for the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, and then he's one of those guys that was what do they call him, moonshots? He takes the moonshots.
Oh yeah, no, he fights anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, he fought Lyoto Machida, like it's ridiculous.
At heavyweight.
Open weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was chunker BJ Penn.
191. It says
he weighed 192 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, 191 and Machida weighed 225. Machida didn't look too good himself.
No, they both looked like little sumo wrestlers in there. Like, why did he take that fight? Like, what the fuck was he doing?
Well, that fight was on like their own
promotion.
Oh, actually, no. It says K1 Heroes.
Oh, that's right. It was K1 Heroes.
I thought that one was in Honolulu, but no, it wasn't. That was one that was in Saitama.
Yeah, it was just so random. And then Lyoto had a ton of those fights before he got to the UFC. Like, he gets to the UFC, nobody knows who he is except that he's undefeated. But then you go look at his record and like, wait, this guy knocked out Rich Franklin? When the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was weird. Lyoto's another one of those guys who just had like such a bizarre career. Okay, my cut fighter is Andrei Arlovski. He's only lost 2 straight, which is a lot better than the last time we looked at him when he lost 5 or 4 straight. But he's really mailing it in now. I just think he's done. He's done. Like, his performances are so flat. I think he's just picking up a paycheck until they cut him, honestly.
Yeah, but they're huge paychecks for these guys. You'd be amazed at how much these heavyweights make.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, him and Alistair Overeem rake in,
so
easily
much.
100 plus every fight to go out and, like you said, a lot of times they look like they're just mailing it in.
Yeah.
Weird thing about Arlovski is, I mean, he's so back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You never
he's
know
just
what you're gonna.
he has a flat line in terms of his competition. Like, if he can tell right away that he has the edge on you in striking, like the Junior Albini fight, then he'll get up for it and he'll do the job, But if he faces any adversity, he's done. He's Bob Sapping it, dude. He's just collecting his paycheck and soaring through the whatever, just like the his last fight, which you could barely even remember because it was so terrible. Was it Shamil Abdurakhimov?
Yeah, that was a bad fight.
And then the Tai Tuivasa fight, when he knows he's losing, there's no fighting back from adversity anymore, and I just don't think he's really has much of a plan ahead except to collect those paychecks.
I think they'll keep him around a little bit longer though, just because heavyweight's so slim, and people like to see the big guys, and he doesn't seem to take uber damage anymore. He's gotten a lot smarter over the years. You hardly see him flatlined.
Yeah,
but
it's true. Well, it might happen here with Walt Harris.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's all I got for the prelims. Anything else?
No.
All right.
I think we covered it all.
Moving right along to the main card. This is on pay-per-view at 10 p.m. And this, I believe, is in the T-Mobile Arena, right?
Let me see.
Yep, it is. In Nevada.
I would love to be able to look this up fast for you, but UFC has changed their website. I don't know if you've been on it recently.
No, I never go on their website. Why do you go on their website?
Well, it feels like the old, like, first days when people started using Flash for their website, and everything like slides in from different areas, and it's
like they're trying to do so
unusable.
much that it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a good like interface, right?
It's pretty, but unusable.
Right. Yeah. As is tradition. Okay, so we're opening up the main card with a 145-pound featherweight matchup between Chad Mendes and Alexander Volkanovski. Chad Mendes comes in at 18-4, takes on Volkanovski, who comes in at 18-1. Chad Mendes coming in off that long layoff due to that USADA ban for the sketchy cream bullshit. I think that was like a 2 or 3 year ban, something crazy, and then he comes back and
yeah, it was 24 months.
Yeah,
and it was from an out of competition flagging. He it wasn't on the lead up to a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was after a fight, out of competition, and it was a growth hormone that he attributed to
some cream, right?
that was one of the first excuses that came out. But then I read some other stuff later where he said, I just didn't do my homework. It's my mistake. I take all responsibility. And he didn't say anything about the cream. So I don't know if he's kind of alleging that it might have been in a supplement he took. I don't know.
2 years, though. I remember when that came out, I just thought his career was over. I mean, it's awful, but
the problem with it is if you got anything in your system and you look like Chad Mendes, everybody's gonna automatically assume this little, shrunk down, shaved gorilla is definitely on something. He does not pass the smell test.
Well, speaking of shrunk down gorillas, Alexander Volkanovski is just a Hulk at 145. This dude he used to be a rugby player and he was a competitive wrestler as well. At one point, get this shit, he's 5'6", right? At one point, he was 214 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
At 5'6". That's straight up tree trunk, fire hydrant.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was going back and watching some of the fights, some of his first fights. I can't remember where it was at, but it was the European crew that was announcing it. And one of the guys
Dan Hardy, John Gooden.
John Gooden was the one that said it. He goes, yeah, he's very small for a featherweight. I feel like he's small for a featherweight.
Huge.
I was like, God, I mean, yeah, he's short, but that doesn't make you small.
He's massive. Like,
and these guys, they're both 5'6". They're both 5'6". So.
Yeah, I think Volkanovski might be the most just powerful featherweight I've ever seen. Like
I would still give the size and strength advantage to Chad Mendes.
Dude, I don't know. I give the wrestling advantage to Chad Mendes.
It'll be interesting to see what they look like when they're next to each other in the ring.
I'm telling you, dude, Volkanovski's bigger. He's like Chad Mendes has that triangle back, like that Bruce Lee, Phil Davis thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Volkanovski is like legs, tree trunks, arms, tree trunks. Like he is just, I don't know how he fits into a 145-pound body.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, this fight is super interesting. Let's see. Volkanovski is kind of has a Chad Mendes game, to be honest. He really does. Like I actually didn't know that much about him until I started going back and watching all his tape. He really flew under the radar for me. Like I know that he's 18-1 and he's had a couple fights in the UFC, but I was surprised to see that it was like 5 fights in the UFC.
Right. And that's exactly what happened with me too. I started reading through his all of his stuff and I was like, I don't remember seeing this guy ever.
I know. And I think, but then once I started watching his fights, I remembered some of them. And I think it's just because he hasn't had a lot of finishes that I hadn't really noticed him. Also, for some reason, I didn't realize he was Australian. He's from Australia. I thought he was like Russian or some shit because of Alexander Volkov. I like made that weird little connection, but I guess I'm just not properly cultured. He's from Australia.
Right. The thing I noticed going through his record or reading up on him and stuff is that, he bills himself as a kickboxer, boxer, wrestler first. And
he's
then
definitely a wrestler
last.
First.
Well, no, then it was wrestling last. And I started to wonder why, because I haven't watched his fights. I've seen him, drop into singles and do that really push you up against the fence fight on you thing. Well, he started wrestling at a very young age.
12, right?
Yeah, well, that's when he won his national title in Australia.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
Then he quit and went into rugby for a long time.
Right, and didn't he do like Greco-Roman just to like supplement that?
Yeah, dabbled. So now if you take that as your wrestling background, and then you compare that to Chad Mendes' wrestling background, you definitely got to say that he better come out here as a boxer, kickboxer first against Chad Mendes, because he's not going to be anywhere near the level of a wrestler, grappler that Chad Mendes is.
Right. Well, and that's why this fight is super interesting, because how old is Volkanovski? He's like 30? Yeah, he's 30. And Mendes is what, 33? Yeah, he's 33. So, I mean, you might have a little bit of youth on Volkanovski's, side, but the other thing is, I don't know what to make of Chad Mendes at this point in his career, because we have like no data on him of the last 3 years. The Miles Jury fight was 5 seconds. It doesn't. There's nothing there.
And his last 2 fights or 3 fights before he went, before he went out, he had that lost to Jose Aldo, and then
which he looked great in.
Yeah, then he stomped Ricardo Lamas, and then he gets knocked out on a short notice fight against Conor McGregor.
Right, which was weird.
And then only 5 months later, he ends up going out there against Frankie Edgar and gets knocked out again.
And it was so fast that I can't make anything of that either.
Yeah, he got caught on the way in. Now, what I'm thinking on that one is it was way too soon. His head was rattled coming out of that McGregor fight. I'm thinking this two years off might have been one of the best things for him.
Maybe.
He competed a little bit in some submission grappling stuff. He stays busy. He's a outdoor dude. I can't see him sitting around drinking beer and getting fat.
No, he trains all the time. That's what he does.
He trains all the time. That's what they say. An alpha male, he's always there. I remember anytime you'd see a training video. Yeah, anytime you'd see a training video coming out of that gym, you saw Chad inside there when other people were getting ready. So he stayed sharp. I'm thinking if it was my money that I was putting down, I would put it on Chad Mendes.
Yeah,
I think he's got the big fight experience. If he's back and on his game, he's a top tier guy in this division.
Yep.
Alexander, having only seen what I saw this morning and yesterday when I was looking through him, he seems like he could be on his way in. But this might be a little bit too soon for him. It's actually a great time for him to take this fight, though, with Chad only having that 5 seconds worth of fight in the last 2 years. So, I see the matchmaking and it was smart. And God, they're going to look, terrifying next to each other.
I know. I'm very. The thing is, Volkanovski is gonna wrestle. That's the thing. Like that's what he does. He's not that slick of a boxer. Chad Mendes is a far superior striker than he is at this point. After Chad Mendes went through that progression with who's his coach? Bang Ludwig. Yeah. And he turned him into this little mini TJ Dillashaw, basically. The thing is, Volkanovski's striking game, while it's not as advanced as Chad Mendes, even though he is the same height, he's actually going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, which is pretty crazy. Like, they're both 5'6", but Mendes is at 66 inches, and Volkanovski is at 72.
Yeah, but the problem with a grapple-heavy forward pressure fighter like Volkanovski is he's not going to use that advantage.
No, he doesn't use it properly. What he likes to do is he does that wrestling setup, like a huge left, a huge right, lunges in, and now we're on the cage. That's his whole game. His striking game is to supplement his grappling. It's just to go straight to the transition, Mm-hmm.
And if you think that's the strategy he's going to employ, I can't see him coming out with a win on this one because he's going to get mauled.
Right. Well, I think
he trains out of someplace. I looked it up, and there was because I was wondering if it was like freestyle fighting gym. I was wondering if there was anybody else major he might be there training with, and I didn't see anybody on their roster that I'd ever heard of before. Mendes is at Alpha Male with 50 top tier mini grapplers in there day long. So
yep. See, I'm just like, the thing that Volkanovski does well, and this is how he's won basically all his UFC fights, is he comes into the clinch, he gets the takedown. He's actually a pretty good transitional wrestler, like a chain wrestler, like a Chael Sonnen, just like never gives up on the first one type of deal. Mm-hmm. Like, he gets you there eventually. Then once he does get there, he's so strong. Even if he doesn't have the underhook and half guard, he's got that strong wizard, and he's just murdering you with shots while you're trying to get up with your underhook. He's also very good, like, off the break, always throwing knees. He, like, really beats up the body with his knees. I really like that about his game. But again, you're talking about trying to do that to Chad Mendes. I don't see that.
All-American,
right?
National runner-up NCAA. Mm-hmm.
I don't see that happening. And what I think is a little more likely here is that Volkanovski does try to push his grappling game, can't really take Chad Mendes down. We get to see Mendes defensive wrestle a little bit, which we've never really seen, which is kind of why I wanted that Frankie Edgar fight to go longer. And then I think Mendes just hurts him on the feet. He's a better boxer all around.
Yeah.
So this might be one of those things where Mendes is just a little bit better at everything that Volkanovski does well. And
and when it comes to knockouts, I know Volkanovski does have a bunch of knockouts on his record, but they were all in the smaller organizations.
Those were regional fights, yeah.
Yeah, regional fights. He's been basically a decision machine since he's gotten the UFC, other than one. Whereas Mendes, I mean, he puts lights out once he gets once he does get close enough to hit you, and it's one and done.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're both taking Mendes there. I think it's gonna be really interesting because I wanna see someone make Chad Mendes grapple or defensive wrestle, and I think that's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. I just don't think Volkanovski is gonna be successful there. I think he's gonna start getting hurt. All right, so Chad Mendes is minus 155 on the books, and Volkanovski coming back at plus 125. Very, very close odds. I think that's right. Did you think he would be higher?
I would have thought with the strength of Mendes's, accomplishments, I would have thought he would have had a little more, been weighted a little bit more.
I think there's still some question marks on where he's at.
And the people that he lost to, but his losses come to, legends.
Yeah, but they're 3 years ago. Nobody knows anything about him now. It's Anyways, okay. Mendes is a slight favorite, and that's going to open the card at 145. Really like that fight. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's a good opener.
Yeah.
That's a smart call on their part.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving along in the light heavyweight division, this is at 205 pounds. Ilir Latifi comes in 14-5, taking on Corey Anderson, 11-4. Corey Beastin 25-8, the worst nickname of all time.
I think he changed it recently.
He did, yeah. He's like overtime now or some bullshit.
Overtime, I like it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What is this, Space Jam? Get out of here. All right, this is you. Start us off.
We've talked about Anderson a couple of times before. Of course, I like him because he finished up his wrestling career at Newberry College, which is, where one of the state champions I helped coach.
Division 3, right?
Yeah, Division 3. He's got a weird path to the UFC. He was convinced to do it by Ben Askren, but now he's up at Almeida's BJJ up in New Jersey. Was on the tough, was a tough winner. Since he's been in there, it seems like he has what it takes to be in the UFC, but he's stopped at his ceiling somewhere around that journeyman level. And you could almost say that about both of them. They go out there, they beat the guys they're supposed to beat 99% of the time, but then when they get in that big fight experience, those big fights, they tend to drop them. So this is an interesting fight to see who's going to come out on this one. I don't even know if I would give Corey Anderson in this fight the edge in wrestling. Ilir Latifi comes from a family of wrestlers. He was on the international scene with Greco-Roman wrestling. He's also very, very good at submission grappling. I believe he won a European ADCC.
Body type of a rhinoceros.
Oh my God, he's built like just a tree trunk with a couple of different limbs sticking off of it. And he can throw some licks too.
Yeah, he hits hard.
Corey Anderson, he's on this 2-fight win streak, but two-fight losing streak.
He's on a 2-fight win streak.
I'm sorry. I misread that. He's on a 2-fight win streak after a 2-fight losing streak.
Right.
In that losing streak, he was also destroying OSP in that fight. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah. That was the head kick, right?
Every single round, and then just got clanged with the head kick. So he's looked pretty good recently. And Latifi as well, also on a 2-fight win streak. After, he did get a bad KO loss to Ryan Bader. Came back after that, looked great against OSP and Tyson Pedro.
Well, what's funny is I would argue that Corey Anderson was winning the OSP fight till he lost, and I would argue that Latifi was losing the OSP fight until he won. Right.
And that's the strange thing about OSP.
That's just OSP,
athlete. Yeah. I mean, he's such an athlete. He makes everybody look either really good or really bad on any given night. I mean, he made John Jones look flat.
He's like the light heavyweight Uriah Hall, except like a little more successful. Right.
Hey, if that, if he hadn't played, NCAA Division I football and had spent those years, working on MMA, I have no idea where he would be at right now, because he definitely has all the athletic, attributes. both of these fighters, like I said, I think they've reached their ceiling at that journeyman level. I don't ever see either of them hitting that breakout star spot. If I had to choose in this one, I'm going to go Ilir Latifi on this one.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I sensed that you were leaning towards him there.
I would give the kickboxing advantage slightly, over to Corey Anderson, but I think Ilir Latifi is going to be able to push through that and come out with a win. Possibly this one might be one of those draggers that goes on for 3 rounds. He might get him down and knock him out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a bad fight.
No.
I think this fight to me is all just whether Latifi pushes his wrestling game and gets him down in the first minute first round. If we see that and he works his grappling game, Latifi, for all the memes of him losing to Musasi in that weird debut and just being a goofy tree trunk, he was winning that, or he was having a lot of success in that Ryan Bader fight before he lost to that
right.
knee.
And Bader's a legit stud.
Yeah, and besides his wrestling, look, Latifi is always going to have problems being an outside striker because he's so short and compact for the division, So he's never going to be winning fights when he's fighting people who are 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. But he has evolved as a fighter. He's not just a wrestler. He has he has gained a serious finishing ability in terms of his grappling. You saw that guillotine against OSP. OSP didn't even have time to tap. He just dumped him on the floor. He was out.
Yeah, like I said, I was just looking it up. He does have he won the European ADCC championships.
Latifi?
And I believe he placed in another one. He's legit.
He can finish from his top game. He absolutely can finish, and he's a danger there. He's not just gonna blanket you. So the problem is, though, like I said, he's always going to be at such a disadvantage from range. And Corey Anderson, on the other hand, I sort of agree that he's reached journeyman level. I don't necessarily agree that he's peaked there. I think he looked great teeing off on Glover Teixeira. I mean, Glover had nothing for him. And I realize I think Glover's kind of done at this point. I think Alexander Gustafsson just sucked the last bit of life out of him. But, I think Corey Anderson looked real solid there. So if you have somebody in Corey Anderson who can pick apart Ilir Latifi from the outside and then, shuck off his takedowns, I don't know what Latifi's path to victory is. Unless he lands some hard shots in the clinch, gets him down, like I said, maybe in round 1, gets some type of Darce or arm triangle, whatever. But if that doesn't happen right away, then I'm picking Anderson to win a decision here. And I was leaning towards Latifi when this fight was announced, but after reviewing tape, I can't pick him. I can't do it. He just doesn't do enough on the feet to win rounds. He only wins rounds with his grappling. And if Anderson's going to be there to wrestle him back, then I'm not sure he's going to do that.
Yeah, I would definitely say he's the better kickboxer from what we've seen so far.
For sure.
Ilir Latifi has, moved his camp now. He's been at ATT for a couple of fights, and he's looked great in both of those fights.
Yep.
I can't imagine he's losing skills as he's getting down there because that's a great team. Probably one of the premier, if not the premier, MMA camps in all of the world. So this will be interesting. Like you say, though, if he can shuck off, if he can keep him away, if he keeps him at distance, I mean, he could easily walk away with a boring decision, where he keeps him on the end of the jab, keeps him on the end of longer kicks. But if he does start kicking, there's a chance he ends up on his butt with somebody on top of him with a much more rounded submission grappling, toolbox.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think if you put them in a straight no-gi submission grappling fight, I would pick Latifi. But that's not what this is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm picking Anderson. And that is our first dissension on the card. And, all right, let's go to the odds. So, another close fight. Ilir Latifi comes in at minus 160. And Corey Anderson comes back at plus 130. Very, very close. I think that's probably right. Latifi won 5 of his last 6. He beat OSP recently. Anderson lost to OSP recently. Probably looking at that too.
And those double knockout losses back to back for
Manuel.
Yeah, for Corey Anderson don't look well as either. You know, he got knockout punched by Manawa and then head kick knocked out by Oven St. Preux. I mean, that takes something out of you.
Yep.
And like you said, that Glover Teixeira win is at, you know, it was 2 fights after, but it was for Glover, but it was definitely a diminished Glover Teixeira.
Yep, for sure. Okay, moving right along to the middle of the card. This is in the welterweight division, 170 pounds. Carlos Condit comes in at 30-12, taking on Michael Chiesa, who is moving up to 170. Comes in at 14-4. And this one is me. I hate this fight. I don't like it at all, to be honest. I don't like that they keep giving Carlos Condit these tough grapplers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be pretty short. Carlos Condit's weakness has always been his defensive wrestling. It's always been his contentness from his back. He has okay sweeps from there and a above average submission game. But, you know, I think the sport has kind of passed him by a little bit where people just aren't going to get caught in what he's got to offer from the bottom there. I think this fight is going to look a lot like the Neil Magny fight, which I also hated.
Right.
I mean, I just don't know what Condit's game plan is anymore when he's not fighting a striker. And Michael Chiesa is not a striker. I think he can get him down routinely, and he can win points there and stay out of Condit's guard or stay out of dangerous submission threats. Or if Chiesa ever does actually get to his back, I think he can actually submit Carlos Condit too. You know, that rear naked choke is Chiesa's best submission. It's his absolute number one technique. He even submitted Beneil Dariush with it, who is actually a better technical grappler than Chiesa or Condit. So I just don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Condit. I don't know what Condit's doing. I don't know. I mean, he's coming back. I don't know why he came back. He wants to fight. A lot of these guys can't hang it up, but I don't like him fighting technical grapplers. I can't favor him against any technical grapplers at this point in his career. So I'm taking Michael Chiesa for a 3-round decision, and I can even see a finish if he gets to his back.
And I'm agreeing 100% with all your points there. It seems to me like Carlos Condit, ever since the loss to Robbie Lawler, has kind of been like with one foot out the door. The Damian Maia fight, he seemed even more on his way out the door. Neil Magny, it acted like he was never coming back again. And then the Alex Oliveira fight, you know, and you wouldn't say Cowboy is the greatest, you know, submission artist out there.
No.
I like, but I
that
mean,
fight was a little different.
Yeah, he got cracked first. I don't, like you said, I don't know why he's still doing it. I have to think they're offering him really good money for it.
I guess
it doesn't seem to me
I
like
guess I don't mean
it.
I guess I don't mean why he's still doing it, but why he came back, right? That's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
So that fight that he lost to Alex Oliveira was in April. So it's not that long of a layoff for him. You know, another big storyline on this fight is going to be Chiesa coming up. You know, he's had a hard time making lightweight for a while. He actually missed it in his last fight, did not make weight, and then ended up losing the fight as well, didn't he?
That was the triangle armbar submission from Anthony Pettis. Fuck yeah.
He ended up getting choked out by Anthony Pettis. We all picked Michael Chiesa to win that fight, by the way.
Shame on us.
Yeah,
don't root against your heroes.
We sat there. We all said that Anthony Pettis was done. So this might be another one of those situations. But I'm guessing the odds are in Chiesa's favor, and I'm going to go with those as well. Not super excited to see it. Hope Condit, you know, I wonder how much of a bigger guy is Condit than him.
Well, he's always been a very lanky individual, but so is Chiesa, you know?
Yeah, he's 6'2". Chiesa is 6'1". Mm-hmm. Chiesa fought almost entirely lightweight. He had some early fights in 2008 and 2011 at welterweight. So this is not his first time fighting at welterweight, but it'll be his first time in the UFC.
Honestly, I think they'll be very similar sized, and Condit's he's not a guy to bully you, really. not unless you're striking in the clinch with him, and then he'll elbow your face against the cage, which is great. But I just don't see that. That's not where this fight's going to be.
Yeah, and you made a good point earlier that, he's not going to be able to catch anybody with what he's throwing off of his back. And that seemed to be one of his big problems, especially in his later fights, is that, he's very content on his back, it seems. He doesn't try to get up. He actually tries, janky submissions, things that aren't going to work. And he seems to work off of it, try to work off of his back rather than try to work for an escape or to get back up. And if he does that with Chiesa, I can't not see Chiesa find his way to the back and getting that choke,
or just passing his guard or sitting in half guard and just winning rounds, And I watched that Neil Magny fight again. It's so strange. It's such a strange fight. Condit gets into a lot of these single X, 50-50, almost deep half, inverted knee bar. He gets into all these positions where he's on the leg. He's wrapped it up. And Magny is not, he's not even punching his way out of it. He's just kind of carefully defending. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is you don't have to abandon it immediately because you're not getting punched in the face. Well, it's so strange. Condit kind of, there's sweeps there that I'm sure he can hit just by picking up that leg and standing up, but he doesn't do that. He lets the position unfold and then sits on his back and waits for the next scramble, or not even scramble. He waits for the next position and then goes into his guard. And it's why didn't you stand up with his leg, or why didn't you use your underhook to wrestle up? There's not an urgency for him to come back on top or win the scramble or win that position. I just don't see that from Condit. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that from him, but I certainly don't see it now, and that's not a winning formula.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He seems way more content on his back than he should.
It's just strange though. It's weird. I don't know why he's not completing these sweep. He's in good positions. He puts himself in good positions. He's just not completing the techniques. He's not standing up with the shit he should stand up with. He's not standing up with the underhook he has. He just goes back to his back.
Yeah, let's not discount Magny's, grappling ability.
No, he's fucking solid.
Yeah, he's solid.
It was just a weird fight.
He's standing up, and like you said, the weird thing for me out of it was he wasn't punching his way out of those positions. I mean, he's long enough to hit you from that stand up weird, where the guy's got your ankle and you're just standing over top of him. He had more than enough length to hit him, but he seemed to be, happy. He was like, well, if you're just going to do that, I'm just going to show you that I can out grapple you, and we're just going to keep working.
And he did.
Back into it.
And he did out grapple him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange. I don't know.
This fight, what do you think? Do you think it's going to go the distance? Do you think Condit's...
Well, that's what I was saying. I think it's going to go the distance, but if Chiesa gets on his back, that could be it. I mean, he can submit anyone from his back. I believe that.
I was looking through my notes here, and I misspelled Condit every time and spelled it conduit.
Conduit, you're a fucking electrician.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Yeah. Sorry. So we're both picking Chiesa.
Yeah, obviously.
You're thinking I'm going to say by submission. I think he's going to stop him.
You think he's going to get to his back?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could happen. That'll be sad. I'll take him by decision. Maybe Condit hurts him and we have a more competitive fight. Who knows? Maybe gets an elbow in there. I don't know. Okay.
So what are the odds on this one?
They're not as long as I thought, actually. Michael Chiesa is minus 185, and Condit comes back at plus 150.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that's a bad call either, with this being Chiesa's first fight up at welterweight, and also coming off of a loss to, Anthony Pettis.
And Kevin Lee.
And you know what? Just like I said with Corey Anderson earlier, I kind of feel like I've seen the ceiling for him. Every big fight that he's been in, almost he's lost. All of his losses come to names, but he doesn't really have any names on the other side of the column.
Wait, are you talking about Chiesa?
Yeah, Chiesa. And this is, Carlos Condit is a big name, so
yeah,
maybe he folds.
I still don't know what to think of Chiesa yet. He was on.
I really liked him. Yeah, I really liked him on the show. I liked him up until that point, but
I think he's got some more in him. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've seen the best yet, but I could be wrong. Okay, let's move on to the first of 2 title fights. And, this is a really great pay-per-view. I love this pay-per-view. All these fights are solid, really, except for Latifi and Anderson. But, okay, the co-main event. Chris Cyborg, the 145-pound women's featherweight champion, comes in at 20-1, and she is taking on Amanda Nunes, who comes in at 16-4. Amanda Nunes, of course, is the women's 135-pound bantamweight champion, who is moving up to featherweight for this fight to take on Chris Cyborg. She will attempt to become the first woman to hold 2 titles simultaneously, and only the 3rd UFC fighter to do so, behind Conor McGregor and Daniel Cormier. Very interesting fight. I would say the best opponent, most skilled opponent that Chris Cyborg has ever fought certainly is Amanda Nunes here, which is very interesting alone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is you. Start us off. What do you think?
This is one of those cases where you talked about it earlier, where I think Amanda does everything that Cyborg does, but Cyborg does it just a little bit better. I believe Cyborg is the better stand-up fighter. I believe she's the better on the ground. I've seen, both of them, displaying all of their skill sets over a long range of fights now. And I think Amanda's just got too many -1s on the other side of the column, -1 point against Cyborg for this, -1 point. Amanda recently has very, very much, it seemed, relied on her athleticism, strength, and a little bit of her heart in her later fights. And I believe she's just not going to be able to do that against a bigger, stronger opponent like Chris Cyborg. Cyborg has not lost since her very, very first fight in MMA, and she has damn near steamrolled everybody that she's been in there with. I applaud Amanda Nunes for taking this fight, but I don't see a clear path to victory for her at all.
Do you also feel like there was some resistance with Nunes taking this fight? Mental...
Yeah, fuck yeah, because she's not retarded. I mean, I can't see any reason why anybody would say this is a good fight for me other than the money.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you at some point someone had to say, it's almost a win-win situation. If you go out there and lose, who cares? You lost to a bigger woman.
Well, and her belt's not on the line. And
your belt's not on the line. For Chris Cyborg, other than Amanda Nunes' name, it really ain't, it's not a big win for her either,
Well, it would be her biggest win.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a girl who's even in her weight class.
Right.
And this is the story of Chris Cyborg's career.
Right.
The best competition she's ever fought is not even in her weight class. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm questioning... Well, let me get to this after. All right. Here's what I think about this fight. I'm super interested, kind of like what you said, touching on the path to victory ideal. I'm very interested to see what Nunes' team has put together for her game plan. Very, very interested to see that, because it's hard to imagine a path to victory here. Nunes has been plagued with some cardio issues, mostly when she grapples, right? She had that win over Shevchenko, the 5-round win, and she looked okay, but that's also because it was a tit-for-tat point-fighting kickboxing match.
Right.
There was no grappling save for the last 3 minutes of the 5th round. A lot of people can fight a 25-minute fight if you're only throwing jabs and leg kicks every minute or so. So I don't really, I don't view that fight as the solution for her cardio problems. I think those are still there if she wants to grapple and grapple often. I think she's going to run into those problems in a 25-minute fight. Whereas Chris Cyborg, in all the 25-minute fights we've seen of her, she looks pretty fucking good. She's an absolute athlete, and she looks well-conditioned. So...
And she's very, very smart. Chris Cyborg, you take away her athletic ability and her obvious size advantage that she has almost against any woman fighter out there. She's also very smart in the ring.
That's people undersell her about that.
Yeah, you saw that in her fight with Holly Holm, where she, made adjustments in the fight to get more damage in against someone who was, on the bicycle the entire fight. And she was able to get in there. And you've seen her when she is in there with smaller fighters, she knows when to lean on them. Mm-hmm. And if you got someone like Amanda Nunes, who has a little bit of a cardio problem, I'm not even going to say it's a problem anymore because we haven't seen it in a while, but she's gonna lean on her. She's gonna get her up against the fence, and she's gonna make her she's gonna drain her down a little bit before she goes in for the kill. And at any time, though, unlike most women fighters out there, she has a kill shot. I mean, she could put you out, one punch.
Yeah.
So
no, she can. The thing is, when you pick apart this fight, I think a lot of people are questioning, can Amanda Nunes use her grappling effectively here? And the problem for me, and this is why I go back to, it's going to be so interesting to see what her game plan is. I think there's opportunities in the clinch with Chris Cyborg. I don't like what she does there, and she's so calm there that she doesn't have an urgency to get the proper underhooks and really frame in a way that frees her. And I think she's so used to fighting people who are, I would say, undersized, but just don't match her in strength. She can sit with double overhooks on the fence and be fine. She can still defend takedowns from there. But furthermore than that, if Yana Kutskaya can hit a fucking ankle pick from you in a low single, or whatever you want to call that shit, you don't think Amanda Nunes could do that? I do.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to do it for 5 rounds, though. I don't even think she's going to try and hit that in the first round because she's going to be worried about getting tired.
The thing about it also, though, is, Cyborg's a pretty accomplished IBJJF, BJJ athlete herself. She's no slouch on the mat.
No, she's solid. She's a brown belt.
One of her main grappling partners is Gabby Garcia. You can't tell me that Amanda Nunes has more in the tank than Gabby Garcia.
Well, she might be more technical, but she's not stronger.
Yeah. So, I don't see. That's why I said there's too many -1s, -2s on the other side of this ledger here for Amanda Nunes. That just makes it hard for me to see any way for her to get in there and win this fight.
Yeah.
Maybe use it. I think that if she tries to rely heavily on her grappling,
she's gonna get tired.
She's going to get wore down. If she tries to, she's going to have to find a mix of both of them to get any kind of results.
That's the thing, though. That her Shevchenko game plan, jab, inside leg kick, that shit ain't going to fly against Chris Cyborg.
No.
Hell no. And the thing I like best about Cyborg's boxing game at this point, she keeps a very, very high guard, and she makes conscious decisions to be a phone booth fighter at the times where it's necessary. So when you come in, she's ready. She's ready to exchange with you. She's willing to take a shot from you to give hers, and she's going to bank on the fact that she hits harder. And that's how she won the Holly Holm fight.
Yeah.
And, she's going to do that against Amanda Nunes all day. Also, the other thing is, when Nunes won that Shevchenko fight, air quotes, won, she was controlling the distance. She was controlling the aggression. She had the center of the octagon. That's not going to happen with Chris Cyborg. Very, very good at cutting off the distance, cutting off the octagon, cutting off angles. She's going to be controlling the center and dictating the pace. She's going to be advancing. I'm not sure how well Amanda Nunes fights off her back foot.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be another problem for her.
Yeah, so I guess we're both picking. What do the odds guys have on this one?
All right, so Amanda Nunes comes in at plus 200 underdog, and Chris Cyborg is minus 260 as the favorite.
So if Amanda Nunes takes anything away from this, she has already won the odds game, because I think that's the closest odds I've seen on any Cyborg fight in the last decade.
Oh yeah, I don't think we've ever seen closer than that. I mean, you had what were the Holly Holm odds? Here you go. Okay, the Holly Holm odds were minus 350. Well, actually, they closed. Yeah, they closed at minus 350 for Cyborg.
Yeah, this might be the closest odds since Gina Carano. I mean,
my God.
literally that close. I mean, that long ago.
Oh
And
my God. I'm looking at the history of Chris Cyborg odds. Dude, like, let me just read this off. Minus 300, minus 1600, minus 400, minus 1400, minus 1200, minus 2000, minus 3000, minus 3050. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You would think a bear was fighting a kitten. Jesus Christ.
And unfortunately for most of her opponents, that's how she's made it look in the ring.
Yeah.
And, you know, she has all the physical attributes. She's a hard-working athlete. Anything I've ever seen about her is them talking about how she works harder than anybody in the gym. She's got great trainers now. She can be on top for a very, very long time.
Well,
that's
the thing, too. Like, what you're saying is her technical ability is definitely undersold by the fact that she's just, like, steamrolled people who are smaller than her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not true. Like, she has become a technical boxer, like a technical grappler. She has improved her game to the point where she's not just going to lose when you put a competent athlete in front of her. Like, she has also gotten better. And people don't give her credit for that because she's just destroyed everyone that she's fought.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. We are both taking Cyborg there. But I'm really interested to see Amanda Nunes' game plan. I hope she tries to grapple at least a little bit because I would love to see those exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little concerned that this might just turn into Cyborg Holly Holm too.
Agreed.
Okay, moving on to the main event at 205 pounds, light heavyweight division. This is for the belt. John Jones comes back at 22-1, taking on Alexander Gustafsson at 18-4. This is a rematch of their original UFC 165 rematch. Basically, what the UFC is saying here is that since Daniel Cormier is fighting at heavyweight, they're going to strip him and make this the new light heavyweight belt, which is fine. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the consideration that one of the guys in this fight was the last guy to hold that belt before giving it up.
Yep. Okay, this is me. So, all right, the first thing I want to talk about here actually is the first fight, because there's a lot of contention in the way that was scored, and I'm interested to see how you scored it or how you remember watching it. So do you remember watching that live and what you thought when it ended? Like, even if you weren't scoring it, just like when the bell rang, who did you think won?
I thought that it was a two fights. There was the first 2.5 rounds and then the last 2.5 rounds. And I thought Gustafsson came out, got the takedowns, controlled a lot of the striking, was looking good on that bicycle for the first 2.5 rounds, and then I thought John Jones took over in the last 2.5 rounds. At the end of that fight, though I was rooting hard for Gustafsson, I thought John Jones had won it. I didn't think it was as big a controversy as people made it. The third round is the round that you have some wishy-washy with.
Well, yeah. Okay, so I actually, when I first watched it live, I remember feeling the same thing. I thought it was really close. I thought Gustafsson hurt him more than anyone had, hit him more than anyone had. But I remember thinking, like, after it ended, well, honestly, I feel like John Jones won that. And I watched it again and rescored it, and I still scored it 48-47 for John Jones. Round 1 was a very clear Gustafsson round. Now, this is the round where he comes out aggressive, he defends the takedowns, he boxes Jones up, and this is where he gets his takedown, which was actually the first time John Jones had ever been taken down.
Yeah, I believe he took him down twice in the fight, though, didn't he? Or am I wrong on that?
Well,
I thought he got 2
yes.
takedowns.
Well, what happened was he took him down he shot him with a double and then turned the corner on it. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was his legitimate takedown. And then Jones got an underhook and wrestled up. Now, the second takedown he kind of picked up his ankle, like an ankle pick, and just threw him up, and Jones fell down, but then just immediately got up. And that's where they credited the second takedown, but there's no control there. Okay, anyways, so round one, Gustafsson clearly wins, and round 5, John Jones clearly wins. The round 2, 3, and 4 were all close. All close. Now, round 4, I gave to Jones. Most people gave to Jones. This was the round in round 4 where Gustafsson was controlling the first 4 minutes, but then Jones came back and hurt him bad and like kind of almost finished him.
With the spinning elbow that broke him in half.
That's
almost,
round 4. So you can clearly give that to Jones if you want. Round 2 and 3 were very close, and this is where we get into the discussion of what do you favor, volume or damage? You know, like Jones was landing the elbows and the head kicks, and Gustafsson was boxing him up. So it's one of those things where it's very contentious, but on the rewatch, I still gave Gustafsson the first 2 rounds, and I gave Jon Jones the last 3, and I feel pretty confident about that. But you know, if you want to argue about the middle rounds, anybody could argue about that.
And then first off, Jon Jones, dominant light heavyweight champ at the time. You got to take that damn belt from him. I firmly believe that. I've believed it in all combat sports since I've been watching it since I'm 12 years old.
But what the fuck does that mean? That's not in the rule book. That's not.
I know, but it's that general feeling like you got to you have to have a dominant performance.
You're saying like the challenger is
going
to lose a close fight, is what you're saying?
Yes, and it's. I'm not just saying that that's a rule. I'm saying
you feel like it happens.
Yeah, that's how it is. Number 2 on that one is at the end of the fight, you had the feeling that if it had to go 1 or 2 more rounds, I believe Jon Jones would have won it.
Yeah.
You know, he turned the tide, and we started to see Gustafsson wilt, and Jones seemed a little bit stronger.
Agreed.
You know, going into those last rounds. So those 2 things outside of actual scoring, you kind of got to give to the champ on that one. Gustafsson, gotta love him as a fighter. I think he's given us 2 of the best light heavyweight fights of all time. Jon Jones being one, the Daniel Cormier being the other. He's had some strange things happen in the ring with him with that headbutt in the what was his name? In the Anthony Johnson fight. You know, they go out there, he's in his hometown. They end up butting heads sometime in the middle, and he ends up getting finished in there.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that, you know, your heart went out to him after that fight because goodness gracious, it looked like it broke him. But he's come back and he's looked great. I mean, that last fight against Glover Teixeira, he literally looked like a boxing phenom.
I mean, he looked like a street fighter fighting a child at the arcade.
Yeah, that last finishing combo looked like he had hit the right buttons on the controller.
Oh, straight out of Tekken.
And it just dink, dunk, dink, dink, dink. And I mean, you know, it was uppercut that put his head straight up in the air with a left hook that followed it and put him out, or a right hook. That followed it, put him right out. That was gorgeous. He's gotten better. Jon Jones has been gone now for a long time, but Jones has also gotten better over the years. He seems to always find a way in a fight, and if Gustafsson goes out there and has success early in this fight like he did in the last one, I still believe in Jon Jones's championship ability to figure his way out inside the fight and come out on top.
Yeah.
But gosh, this is a long layoff for him.
Well, you know, here's the weird thing, though. Here's a fun fact. Jon Jones has fought more recently than Alexander Gustafsson. Process that.
So this was July 2017 in Gustafsson.
May.
Oh, really?
Isn't that weird?
I feel like that Teixeira fight was just not too long ago.
I know.
But I'm old, so
I know it feels like it was just around the corner. But actually, the Cormier fight was more recent.
Yeah, so they're both on, you know, this over a year layoff. So, you know.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Anything? Maybe not.
Maybe. So that just wipes that whole thing out. What I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I normally don't like rematches. I like this fight. I like this fight because this was the most competitive Jon Jones fight we've seen, hands down. So
they did a great inside the cage or whatever it is on the 2 European guys.
Dan Hardy, John Gooden.
Yeah, I watched all of it last night, and they talked about after this fight how Jon Jones seemed like he wanted to prove that he could box because he kind of got boxed up in this fight.
Oh, fuck yeah, he did.
Yeah, they went over his Glover Teixeira and Daniel Cormier fights where he played in the pocket hard. He got in both of their faces, stayed in that phone booth, and outboxed both of those guys who are known for being inside the pocket fighters.
I would say he outstruck them. I don't know if he outboxed them.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can.
I mean, his elbow game, like his
uses
his 8-point Muay Thai game is incredible.
Yeah, he beat them in the pocket. I'll agree with that. So I'm wondering, is he going to try that? Is he going to try to prove himself? Because this is a guy that loves to go out in the ring and prove something to himself and to everybody else. Actually, I don't even think he cares about everybody else. He just likes to prove it to himself.
He doesn't give. I do not think he gives a shit about anybody but himself.
Exactly. It'll be very interesting to see if he can go in there and actually do that. And if he starts to lose that game, if he's could put his ego to the side, step back, and do a different John Jones game, which is going to be, kicking the leg and work on his grappling. He also probably wants to get those takedowns back. I can imagine, someone who comes from a wrestling background, you think about that shit all the time. You think about every takedown you lost. If you're very, very proud of your stand-up wrestling game, you do not like giving up a takedown. And, well, God, you're right. This is a fun fight top to bottom. I'm excited to see where it goes.
All right, so who are you taking?
I'm taking John Jones. I'm taking John Jones because from everything I've ever seen of this guy, it's the same thing we've said about other fighters. He's got that ability to make changes, make adjustments inside the ring, and he has no quit in him. He's a bona fide fucking stud. As bad as he is outside the ring, he is a badass inside the ring. And one funny thing I would like to say, I just happened to pull up his Wikipedia page, and his picture that they have is an obvious picture of him going into a courtroom. He's wearing a suit. He's got a pocket square in. It's some sort of perp walk that they got him.
That purposely or perfectly surmises his career.
What a dick move.
So, we're just talking about his wrestling. Well, the first Alexander Gustafsson fight, you know how there was a lot of to-do that came out of that where he was like not training seriously or whatever, right?
Right.
I mean, we don't know. We can't prove how seriously or not seriously he took his camp. I have no idea. But I will say he looked fucking flat in that fight. His wrestling was dog shit. If you go back and watch that shit, he was like 1 for 15 on his takedowns. And I mean, his wrestling was just, it was so strange what he was doing. He was trying to take him down when he didn't even have the underhooks, like where he was getting pummeled and he just tried to like pull him down. He was shooting lazy, non-level change doubles. He was just nowhere near the takedowns. The only takedown John Jones got in that fight was in the last 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And what I would like to see him use his wrestling for is not trying to take him down, but use it to hold him up against the fence and wear on him a little bit.
Yeah, or just have a more varied approach. Like when you're on the cage, like I was surprised that we didn't see him, kind of scoop out the single leg. Like I guess I don't know. Like maybe John Jones is a double leg wrestler. Maybe he's not a single leg guy. I don't know, but yeah, he looks so flat against Gustafsson because you watch that fight and then watch it back against his other recent fights, like the second Daniel Cormier fight, where Cormier still did very well, but Jones looked much more alive in that fight. Physically, he looked much better, and he looked much more active. And just like this fight as a whole is super interesting because I think John Jones is a just natural athlete and talent, like a preternatural athlete and talent, just like the rest of his family who are NFL athletes. I think that he's an incredible athlete, a really good wrestler. I think he is a poor boxer and a great kicker. And I think that's who John Jones is. And I think that first Alexander Gustafsson fight showed a great boxer versus a great kicker. Mm-hmm. And Jones' best weapon in that fight was his left high kick, which he landed over and over and over again. And it's his left high kick and his elbows. How did he knock Daniel Cormier out in their second fight? Left high kick. That's his go-to in the striking department. The thing is that Jon Jones is so used to having this incredible reach advantage, this incredible physical advantage over everyone, that it doesn't matter if you come in with a decent boxing game. He can just overpower you with techniques in the clinch and his kicks from afar. Well, Alexander Gustafsson comes in with this masterclass boxing game, which he really is an incredible boxer. You have to hand it to Gustafsson. I think he's like a Swedish national champion, whatever. But Gustafsson comes in, and Jon Jones doesn't have all these amazing gifts that he normally does, and Alexander Gustafsson boxed him up soup to nuts that fight, from dawn to daylight. Like, Jones had nothing for him in a pure striking match with hands. Great kicks, great elbows, great clinch, but no boxing game there, and I think that's his ultimate weakness. Like, I like what you're saying about the Cormier and Teixeira fights, how he kind of like boxed in the inside with them, but really he wins those inside exchanges with his elbows, and that's where he did almost all the damage to Gustafsson, was his elbows, even those spinning back elbows, the high kicks, whatever. So, I'm actually gonna take Alexander Gustafsson here. I think he can win those rounds again with his boxing. I think he can defend those takedowns again, and I think he can iterate on that performance. And if this was coming off after the Jan Blachowicz fight, I probably mispronounced that, but whatever, then I would be a little bit concerned. But the way he styled on Glover Teixeira, he looked incredible. Mm-hmm. And maybe he was motivated by that little marriage proposal to his wife there, but
yeah.
But I mean, he looked great, man, and I think the weakness in Jon Jones is his defensive boxing. He's never been a great defensive striker. It's just the reason he's been okay with that is because no one can reach him, no one can get to him. So I like Alexander Gustafsson here, and partially because I don't know where Jon Jones is at. I have no idea. But I know that Gustafsson has been competing fairly regularly and Jon Jones hasn't. And you got to think that all that mental shit, like, that's got to affect you a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this guy... coming into this, I still see Gustafsson as the guy that's lost in most of his big fights, and this is going to be a huge fight for him. He's been thinking about this for 5 years now. And I think for Jon Jones, he's going to be taking this as just, I'm going to go out there and show everybody that the first one was even a fluke, that he even was in the same ring with me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but do you think he's gonna wrestle more?
I don't know, because Gustafsson is such, like, he's one of those bicycle fighters that will run. You even see him sometimes in fights turn his back and run the other way.
Yeah, I hate that.
And that makes it very, very hard to be an offensive wrestler.
Yeah.
Jon Jones's key for me is I would still want him on that bicycle, because I think that's going to wear him down over 5 rounds, just like they said on the inside the octagon. But he does need to cut off the ring a little bit more to get some damaging strikes in early on to not put himself in a hole and have to come out of it again.
Well, I think he needs to push this into the clinch more.
Yeah,
I think he loses that range.
I would say more in the later rounds. I think in the first rounds, if he's going out there, he's trying to close the distance on him, he's going to get touched up and he's going to put himself in a hole. I think if he kind of lets that kind of happen, but does get some of his own strikes in, and then works that clinch game, maybe get some takedowns later on in the fight, he's going to be able to, use his physicality to win this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like I said, I don't like rematches, but I like this one. I'm excited for this one. And it's just because there's always such a question mark over Jon Jones. I just have no idea where he's ever at, what he's ever going to look like.
So if you were to you're picking Gustafsson, do you think it's going to be by decision?
Oh yeah, I think that he is going to win the ranged exchanges, and I think he's going to win enough rounds this time to actually get the decision. And I think that when Jones does come in to try and wrestle, I think that Gustafsson is smart with his underhooks. He's smart with his defensive wrestling. He's kind of like one of those guys who's like slimy, like you can't hold on to him, You know,
it's that build. It's that build. He's long, and you don't got nothing to grab onto.
You know,
once they get wet,
Yep, those lanky guys where you just like can't hold on to him. It's like he's like that. And honestly, like if you scored the first fight for Gustafsson, like I would be fine with that. I scored it for Jones, but like I said, those 3 middle rounds were incredibly close, incredibly contentious. So I just don't see, like, Jones has not fixed his boxing game. He has not fixed his defensive striking. He has huge holes there. And, you know, you even saw Daniel Cormier find those in the second fight.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
he was getting touched up by Daniel.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, Alexander Gustafsson, if he comes out like he did in the Glover-Teixeira fight, I think he could put hands on him again and be effective with that.
But let's go ahead and, you know, finish that last thought that you had. You saw him getting touched up against by Cormier. You saw
Left
him
high kick. There it was.
But what happened?
Left high kick.
We saw him losing to Gustafsson, but what happened? The guy just finds a way to win.
Yeah.
He's not going to quit in there, and
he's
he makes
a champ.
Those you know, he's got that mentality of that no lose, no give up, no give anybody you know, a win mentality.
He's got
I'd
something.
hate to play him at pool. Yeah.
He's got something. All right, so you're taking John Jones to
I'm going to say he's going to finish him. Yeah, I say he's going to finish him this time in either the 4th or the 5th round.
You think he's going to just like hurt him against the fence, elbows, knees, something like that?
Yeah. Once that tide starts to turn on him, if he does come out strong, I think he's going to start wilting, and I think Jones can finish him.
It's possible. All right, you're picking John Jones to once again get back his light heavyweight belt, this is like hilarious how many times he's like lost it but not actually lost the fight. That's got to be a record for like a champion who was like his belt was taken away for other reasons.
Yeah, I'm going to say Jones gets this back and then loses it in the next 6 months to some motor vehicle incident.
Oh God. Yeah, it's very possible. All right, with that, let's move on. Oh, wait, odds. Sorry. Okay. John Jones is minus 285, and Alexander Gustafsson is plus 225. It's kind of long.
Yeah.
This is longer than I would have thought.
So what they're still banking on here is you know, John Jones's championship ability.
Well, and I think they're banking on that the John Jones we saw in the first fight was the shitty version, you know, like he says.
Cooked out.
Yeah,
John
whatever.
Jones.
Yep. And I'll be honest, that first John Jones, if you look at him like physically, he looks soft.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but that's all I'm saying. Okay. Let's get to the listener mail. We got a lot of stuff here. All right, let's see. First, we go to Felipe from San Diego, writes in, I can't see how Nunes beats Cyborg. I don't see the path to victory. Nunes has got good hands, but Cyborg is better. What does she have to do to win? Yeah, well, we touched on this, I guess. So,
and I think, I'll say it again though. I think if Nunes is going to win, it's going to have to be her and her team at ATT are going to have to come up with some sort of game plan that allows her to mix her wrestling, her kickboxing, and her boxing in some sort of fashion that she's able to eke some small advantage there. Because in any of those attributes, I believe she gives up something.
Well, she has to mix those together to win 3 rounds. I feel. Exactly. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. And otherwise, we touched on that in the breakdown. Let's see. All right, we go to the Reddit machine. Green49285 writes in, does the outcome of John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson determine if DC actually leaves the sport at 40 years old?
I don't think he's fighting either one of these guys.
No, me neither.
And if he does fight them, it is definitely not going to be at light heavyweight. I don't think he goes back down to light heavyweight again. I don't think he needs to go back down to light heavyweight again. If one of these guys wins, if they do fight it, it would be at heavyweight. But it's funny. I thought they'd buried not so much buried the hatchet, but I thought they'd stop talking about John Jones versus Cormier. I thought they even both of them were saying they had no interest in the fight. And then I saw something last week where John Jones was talking shit to him again. So maybe he wants a money fight at
I think so, but I think
heavyweight.
I personally don't want to see Cormier fight John Jones again. I don't need to see that. I think he fights Brock Lesnar or whatever and then just retires off into the sunset. Like, he's a double champ now. He doesn't need to go back and get anything else. What you're talking about is John Jones tweeted some bullshit about when he beats Alexander Gustafsson, he will let Daniel Cormier be the first challenger to his belt. And it's just like, dude, I'm fucking over that. I'm over it. Cormier is 40 years old now. Forget it.
Yeah. And
So,
on a side note here, we just got a text message from Smith. So he's safe. He's made it from underneath the Hudson River.
okay, he's alive.
Yeah. And as always, it's some rumor mill stuff.
That's right. That's why we need him for the next segment.
Yeah.
Okay. Furthermore, let's see. Okay, this one is actually pretty interesting. Youns writes in from the MMA subreddit. Let's say Gus beats Jones, who is the widely regarded GOAT. I don't think that would make Gus the GOAT, but then what does? If two fighters who are ranked number 4 and ranked 7 respectively fight, and number 7 wins, then isn't number 7 now ranked number 4? So why can't this logic be applied to Gus if he beats Jones? Jones isn't out of his prime. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I'm curious as what you think it takes to overcome the GOAT. I mean, this is a very subjective discussion.
For one thing, I don't always think that number 4 takes over number 7.
I think it's a breadth of their work.
Yes, and I think that for the GOAT conversation, you have to look at the breadth of their work. Alexander Gustafsson might go down as one of the better light heavyweights of all time. He especially might go down as the number 1 who never held the title. But if he beats Jones, I don't think he's even close to being in the conversation for being better than Jones on the pound-for-pound list of all time. Because, like I said, he's lost all of his big fights, or almost all of his big fights. He lost to Daniel Cormier, lost to Anthony Johnson, lost to John Jones, and he got choked unconscious by Phil Davis in one of his first fights in the UFC.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I can't say that even if he beat him twice in a row, if they came back and if he wins this fight and then they go and do a rematch, a year down the road again and he beats Jones again, I think on the strength of Jones's record all the way up to this point, he's still higher than him on the list.
Well, I think the other thing to consider here is when you talk about this discussion, this is really where styles make fights come into play. Dennis Hallman beat Matt Hughes, I think, twice or 3 times. Does anyone know who Dennis Hallman is?
Yeah, and there's like
does that make him the GOAT? No.
Yeah.
So like if somebody has a guy's number, it doesn't necessarily mean that he is now the best. Like if fighter A beats fighter B twice in a row, but fighter B has beaten A through Z and all those guys would beat fighter A, then it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like if you take everybody who John Jones has fought and you match them all up against Alexander Gustafsson, that doesn't mean that he would beat them all. And that's what you have to think about in these conversations is like styles make fights. Being the GOAT means that you have that dominance over almost everyone. And Alexander Gustafsson has not shown that.
Right.
So, yeah, I think you need it. It's not as simple. It's not as linear as just if I beat this guy, I absorb all of his wins too. No, it doesn't work like that. You would lose to some of those guys, or you have lost to some of those guys.
And we could look at, what just happened in the flyweight division. With Demetrius Johnson losing his last fight by split decision to Henry Cejudo. I think Henry Cejudo is great. What he's done, in combat sports and with a wrestling Olympic gold medal is an awesome accomplishment. Incredibly awesome accomplishment, especially as young as he was. But I don't believe that he should still be ranked higher on the timeline than Demetrius Johnson for this one win over Demetrius Johnson.
It was also a split decision, right? Or was it split? I think it was.
Yeah, in the first one he got shellacked.
Right, and
So,
he's lost to other people as well, but
no, I believe that's his only loss.
no, I thought he lost to Benavidez.
Henry Cejudo? No.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look that up.
I'm pretty sure.
Cejudo.
I'll bet you a 6-pack of Dogfish Head.
Give me a beer that I can buy in a gas station. That's all I'm going to drink.
You can buy it at Walmart.
He did lose to Joseph Benavidez.
Oh shit! Merry Christmas to me.
Yeah, I do not remember that fight at all. I had no idea. I don't think I've ever seen it. I'll have to watch that after that.
It's just okay. All right, let's move on. We got 2 more quick things for listener mail. We go to the Twitter machine at MMA News Now, writes in, do you think Mendes deserves a title shot if he wins, or would that be better suited for the winner of Moicano versus Aldo? It's a good question, and the featherweight landscape is definitely weird right now.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see Max Holloway fight Frankie Edgar or Chad Mendes.
Those are the 2 fights that everybody wants to see. Nobody really wants to see Jose Aldo back in there again.
Or Moicano. I don't want to see Moicano in there either, honestly. I want to see a tough wrestler.
What does the UFC have the rankings looking like right now?
Oh, yes, because that means
featherweight.
Anything.
I'm just... No, it means something on where they're going to... I just wanted to see who was in their top. So we still got Ortega down at number 1, then Jose Aldo underneath that, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson... So who is he asking about? Moicano.
Where is Moicano and where's Mendes on that?
Is this an old one? Oh, this is ESPN's rankings as of April 2018. That's very...
April?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's like 8 months ago.
Oh, so the first thing that it pulls up after that is the UFC's new unusable webpage. Thank you. So we have Formiga...
No, that's flyweight.
Sorry. Ortega, Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano, Mendes right below that.
Okay, there you go. So they're all right there.
Yeah. So any of those would be a good, would be a who they would send up, huh?
But do you think they'll actually give Mendes the title shot if he beats Volkanovski, or would they give it to Moicano if he beats Aldo?
I would think the money fight would be the name, and I think they'd put Frankie Edgar in there before either one of those.
Well, Frankie Edgar has to win something, right?
I mean, he only lost to the number 1. I think that would be the fight that they.
Does Edgar have a fight lined up or no?
No, he doesn't have anything lined up.
Oh, well, fuck it. Yeah, just make that one. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think they should make the Edgar fight, and then if Mendes wins this weekend, I think they should give him the number 1 shot. The winner of that. Yeah. Will they do that? I don't know. I think they should. I mean, Mendes has a much better name than Moicano does.
And then we've got a weird holding pattern for Jose Aldo, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with him.
He's lost to the champ twice.
Well, this makes it really easy. If Aldo beats Moicano and Mendes beats Volkanovski,
then you send Mendes up.
Then it's easy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nobody wants to see Aldo Holloway 3.
Right.
Okay, and last question, again from @MMA News Now on Twitter. Do you think Ryan Hall will be Penn's last opponent? Should he have retired already? If so, how long ago? Well, we kind of talked this to death.
Yeah. And just to answer that second part of that question first, again, yes, he should have retired a long time ago. Do I think it's going to be his last fight? No, he'll do something else. If the UFC decides they're going to part ways with him, he's going to go somewhere else and fight. I don't think this is the last time we'll see BJ Penn. It might be two or 3 years down the road. It might be against Renzo Gracie in Japan.
I'd watch it. Fuck it.
Singapore, yeah. But
you know what BJ Penn says, dude? He says, "Fish swim, birds fly, and BJ Penn fights." That's all he knows.
That's all he knows, and God love him for it. God, I hope that he does get out of the UFC and they give him somebody like shit. We thought the Dan Seaver fight was a gimme.
Well,
Dennis Seaver.
I thought the Cole Miller fight was a good fight for him, but that never happened. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with Yair Rodriguez. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
all right, let's move on. Cover some quick rumors here. I really only have one, unless you want to talk about anything. But what I want to talk about is the return of Cain Velasquez, baby. Comes back to fight Francis Ngannou. I believe this is on the second ESPN card, February 17th. Let me fact check that real quick. What do you think? I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. I mean, Cain Velasquez. I told you I sent this to my son, and the reason being he lives out there in Phoenix now, Glendale, and he, his first ever MMA shirt I bought him was a Cain Velasquez shirt.
Fuck yeah.
I told him he's got to go watch this fight. I might actually fly out to go see it with him.
It's in Arizona.
And this is a great boxer puncher fight. You got Cain Velasquez coming off of a long layoff, and you've got him up against a guy who can't wrestle his way out of a wet paper bag, but
hits hard as fuck.
Fucking cinder blocks in his hands, and if he hits you, there's a good chance part of you is going to be flying out of the octagon.
Yep.
So let's just see what happens. Great heavyweight fight.
I love it.
This far out, just making a dartboard throw at it, I'm going to say Cain Velasquez comes away with the win. He's smart enough to stay away from those punches, and once he gets wraps them up, he's going to be able to wear him down.
Also, one of the best heavyweight single leg wrestlers in MMA.
Yeah, he knows how to put you on your ass. No matter who you are, he's going to put you on your ass. And then once he gets you down there, you're not just standing up.
No, you're dying.
You're
drowning.
You're getting ground out there. And he's not a bad boxer. I just don't think he's going to take the chance. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't even. He's not even going to strike with him. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this fight. I just hope that Cain Velasquez can make it there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, just really looking forward to this weekend's fights, and interested to see how this ESPN thing plays out. I still don't really understand if I have to pay for the ESPN service and Fight Pass.
I don't understand that either, but from what I'm gathering, we will not have to pay for Fight Pass anymore unless you want a library. And then we will instead pay for ESPN Plus as the streaming service, which I guess I'm fine with, but...
Well, that's what sucks, because... No, I'm not fine with that, because $10...
Well, yeah, you want the library.
For the random, fights that I wanted to watch on that, on the just old fight library, and, the other events that they had on their EBI.
That's true. I want the grappling events.
Yeah, grappling events. But it's not worth it if I have to also pay $10 to watch the live event.
No. Yeah,
I'm at $20
honestly, I don't know
extra
what's gonna happen. I hope they get rid of Fight Pass and they mush it into ESPN Plus and they just say, here you go.
Yeah,
then
or
that'd
if
be
you
cool.
pay for ESPN, or if you pay for one or the other, like Google does with their services,
where you get them both.
If you pay for, I should get both of them. I should get a login.
The thing is, I will not pay more than $10 a month for MMA subscription things.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen. I already paid. I pay for other shit. I can't have more things now.
Yeah.
Anyways, I hope they figure that out. But okay, well, I guess that's it from us. I really like this card. Excited for it. Be a nice little Christmas present after the break. And yeah, I'm going to be excited. So, okay, this has been Tomorrow's Fights podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Fights. We will be live tweeting during UFC 232 on Saturday. So follow us there and you can chat with us. Otherwise, yeah, we are also on Patreon now, so if you like what you hear, consider supporting us. You can give as little as $1, and it really helps us. We don't make any money for this, just giving back to the sport that we love. Otherwise, we are on pretty much every streaming platform for podcasts and directories at this point. If we're not on something, let us know. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes... What else? Google Play, everything. What about you, Branscombe? Where can the listeners find you?
You can find me at Cromsdog on Instagram. Hopefully getting some more training videos and stuff coming up. We've got some IBJJF tournaments we're going to be competing in, and that'll be a lot of fun. Other than that, we'll just catch you here next time.
That's right. All right, so once again, follow us on Twitter, and for everything else you need, it's on the website, tomorrowsfights.com. All right, thanks for listening. We will see you for tomorrow's fights. Adios.
Adios.
I don't need you to tell me how fucking good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is.
All right.